everyone, welcome to a new episode of Bo's Slow English. In today's episode, I'm going to interview teacher Sam. He's British. And I don't know much about him, and I'm going to learn a lot about him. We recently met through social media, and I know that he is on a platform called English Sponge, so I'd love to know more about that and also help to promote that channel. And some of you have requested for me to ask Sam some questions, kind of comparing American accent versus the British accent. So we're going to dive into it, and welcome to my channel, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yes, I'm happy to have you. What part of England do you live in?
So I live in a town just outside of London. To the London border, it's about a 5 or 10 minute drive. And from the centre, you can reach it on the train in about 15-20 minutes.
What kind of accent do you have?
That's a very good question. So when I speak to my friends, I would refer to it more as MLE. I think it stands for multi-ethnic London English. Whilst I teach others, my accent naturally shifts more towards RP, received pronunciation.
I've never heard of those terms.
Received pronunciation is the standard British pronunciation. So if you look up a word and it has its pronunciation guide in British English, you'll be listening to received pronunciation.
So you're able to just turn your brain on and off with these different British accents?
Not turn your brain on and off. It's something you do naturally. We all actually do it. Think about when you're at work, speaking to a customer or speaking to a client. You're going to speak to them in a way that's very different than with your best friend, for example. Especially when you are in the area of language teaching. You don't want to use too much slang early on in a person's journey with English, especially like regional slang, like London. It's very different from standard British English or American English.
Do you mind giving me an example comparing the two?
Okay, yeah. So in London, we have quite a lot of slang, or I say in Britain in general now, we have quite a lot of slang that has come from the Caribbean. So, for example, if you want to say, how are you all right to someone, a common greeting in sort of slang, multi-ethnic London English would be wagwan, which is something taken from the Caribbean, from Jamaica, I believe. And whenever I tell people this, they're really shocked. They're really surprised because it doesn't exist very much in other types of English, I don't think.
I've never heard of that before. And I also wanted to clarify, in England, when you ask someone, how are you? Another way to ask that is, are you all right?
Yes, and sometimes we can shorten it down just to the word all right. For example, if you walk past someone on the street that you know, you might just say, you're right, to them, which is a way of saying, how are you?
Okay. In America, when someone asks, are you all right? It's usually a form of, did you get hurt? You know, like a kind of caring type of question. So if you're in America, don't ask that unless someone is hurt. So I have a few questions to ask you from my subscribers. One is, how can English learners stop translating in their head and start thinking directly in English?
That is a really good question. And I was actually having this conversation with one of my students earlier today. And for me, I think it's all about input. You have to understand that when we start translating, we add an extra step between word and meaning. We go from word in language 2, so in this case English, straight to translation. And then you go translation to meaning. That's the order of events in your head. With input, learning language through context and nothing else, you take out that middle step, essentially. It makes you a lot quicker in your conversations. You can process what people are saying much, much quicker as well.
Trying to think of how I would do this in my French learnings. I think an example I can provide is I had a teacher who said, let me give you an example sentence in French and give me the overall gist of what you got. Gist meaning, what is the overall meaning of this sentence? When I started to exercise my brain in that way, instead of trying to understand every single word and the meaning of that, that actually helped me to stop translating the French to English, and then when I would speak from English to French, it allowed me to process a little bit faster. Do you find that that's a technique that your students do, is kind of like a chunk method, I guess?
Something I definitely noticed after I went to Argentina. So I'm a Spanish speaker, and I lived for 10 months in Argentina this year. So one of the first things that I noticed was I stopped viewing language as, a thing to construct. Once you get to the sort of later levels, up to C1 and onwards, you realize native speakers really use these things called language chunks, where you can say 4 or 5 words to sum up an entire situation. People will understand you almost straight away. So trying to think more about meaning, like you said with your example, I think that's a really good way to start forming these language chunks.
Another example is my good friend who is a Filipina. She watches Korean drama, and she somehow knows a bit of conversational Korean just from watching the shows, but she knows certain phrases. So that's when I realized the importance of that chunk method. So the next question is, many learners find the British accent difficult to understand. I'm not saying this. This is what they told me. What advice do you have to improve listening skills?
I definitely know that this is quite a commonly held perception. It's something that I heard a lot in Argentina. When I would speak to people, they would say, I can understand American accents really easily. I don't understand British accents as well. And I think the reason you understand an American accent perhaps easier than a British accent is because you have more hours listening to it. The majority of the world's media comes from America, movies, TV shows, most of the stuff you see on social media as well. So you have so much more exposure to that specific accent. You pick up the idioms, the sort of more subtle nuances of the language. If you just listen to more British English, the same process will happen, but you have to really commit that extra time to it. Maybe if you're struggling with learning different accents or understanding things a bit outside your comfort zone, when you think about splitting up your input over a week, dedicate a certain amount of time to it, to that accent. Say, okay, I have 3 hours, 4 hours to do some practice this week. 2 of those hours are going to be British English. 2 of those hours are going to be American. The more time you do something, the better you get at it with just about any skill, and languages are no different.
I think that's a really good method of learning, is kind of compartmentalize and create a structure of which accent to learn, alternate as well. They're also wondering, is it possible for British speakers to reduce their accent and sound more American if they want to?
I am slightly offended. In all honesty.
I didn't ask these questions.
No, okay. I think you can't turn your accent off. What people definitely can do is speak slower and more clearer, which of course, helps. What you'll find is native speakers speaking to other native speakers will always be tricky for you until you really spend a lot of time in the country. Like, I went to Argentina as like a high B2, low C1 Spanish speaker, and it was still really difficult to sort of be involved in native conversations between 2, 3, 4 different people at a time. We almost have to have like the correct expectations of ourselves as well. I feel like we often want much more than is our current level. And of course, it's a good thing to sort of push you and motivate you, but it's not something you should focus on too much. Be happy with the progress you've made up to here, because most people don't get, this good at a language where they can even understand one accent. So if you're struggling with British English, just give it more time and I'm sure you'll get there.
Everything takes time, that's for sure. This is an interesting question, and I would not know how to answer this, and curious to see your response about how many common words are different between British and American English.
I actually think there's more than I would expect. I can't give an answer either because my knowledge of American English is just through TV. And the stuff you see in content is still slightly different to how the language is in its most natural form, just conversations between different people. So unfortunately, I don't think I can give you an answer either.
For me, when I go to London, not that it's like a regular thing, but when I have gone to London, I'm able to understand everyone. The only difference is the slang or maybe the vernacular, but the words are the same.
What I've found with slang from my time with Americans and speaking to Americans is we understand your slang perfectly. You don't understand ours. And that's because we've all watched so much American TV and listened to so much American music. Anytime a word enters your popular culture, it comes over here as well, but it doesn't work the other way round. You guys don't watch that much British content, so these words don't sort of enter your vernacular, as you said.
Living in Los Angeles, I encounter a lot of British people, so I think that has given me a bit of a jump start with that.
Sorry to interrupt, are they tourists?
No.
No, okay. British tourists don't have a particularly good reputation, so if they're not tourists, that's probably a good thing.
Oh, I never thought that, but no. The British people that I've met, they are now locals to LA. Yeah. Next question is, how is the pronunciation of the letter O different in British English compared to American English?
Can you give me an example? How would you say the word woman?
Like that? Women?
No, you say women. I say woman.
Oh. I'm like that.
like singular, like woman. One woman.
A woman.
Uh-huh. The number one, how would you pronounce the number one?
One.
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 One. Do you hear a difference?
One. You said one, and I said one. I think the way I release the O in my mouth is different. I say one, and you say one. You kind of keep the round.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. The biggest difference I notice is the ending of words. So, for example, the famous phrase, bottle of water. When I say water, I finish it with more of a UH, whereas you really pronounce the R, I find. That's the main difference. But in terms of the letter O, I'm not too sure, personally.
Bottle of water. It's not cute.
Bottle of water. Well, you say bottle, and I say bottle, so that's actually a slight difference with our O's, no?
How about, how do you say banana?
Banana.
But I have a little bit of an East Coast accent too. For example, where I'm from, phone would be phone, which I actually feel like might be closer to a British accent because my guess is you'd say phone.
Phone. Yeah, you're not far off. You're not far off.
Phone. But nowadays I say phone.
Did you notice your accent changed a lot when you moved cities?
When I learned English, I learned it growing up in Baltimore. My accent was never as strong as my friend's accent whose parents were born and raised in Baltimore. I came to the States when I was 1. And also I grew up in a Korean household. So I was kind of juggling between learning Korean and English. My O's and some of my A's would be a little bit different. So phone instead of phone. Now I say phone. I used to say gas instead of gas. And there's a popular saying in Baltimore kind of making fun of our accent. Do you want to go to Ocean, hon? Did you understand what I said?
No, I had no idea. Something about the ocean?
Exactly. I said, do you want to go to the ocean, hun? Like honey?
Ah, okay. I was confused at hun at the end. I think that's what threw me off a little bit.
Yeah, you want to go to ocean, hun? Can you tell me more about English Sponge?
Yes, of course. I am one of the guides over at English Sponge. We make comprehensible input videos for people at all levels and with a range of different accents as well. We have people from Canada, people from East Coast USA, West Coast USA. We have British English. We have an Australian guide as well. So if accents is something you've been struggling with, English Sponge might be a great place for you guys to try and practice, get some more experience listening to different types of English.
And you have your own online website, so you have that platform, and you have a YouTube channel?
Yes, so we're here on YouTube. You can find us English Sponge, and the website is www.englishsponge.com.
I would love to support your channel, and for anyone who's watching, please go to English Sponge. There's a lot of helpful videos on there, especially if understanding the different accents is a challenge for you. How did you get into teaching English?
So I started teaching English last year, just over a year ago now. I decided I needed a change in my life. I needed a bit of time away from England as well, I think. So I was trying to think of some different ways that I could, work whilst traveling, and I found teaching English. In order to try and, give my students some comprehensible input, I started making videos and eventually came across English Sponge. Yeah, I used to look at the state of English comprehensible input and realize, wow, I learned Spanish to such a high level just through comprehensible input alone. Dreaming Spanish, I'm sure everybody has heard of it by now. But I realized there's really just not enough for people in English, so I really wanted to try and give back to the world, and that's how I found English Sponge.
A lot of my videos use the comprehensible input method. Do you mind explaining a one-liner for what comprehensible input is?
Oh, a one-liner. I can use 3 words. Watch, listen, learn.
From my understanding, it's kind of like how children learn their first language. I'm sure that's how I learned Korean, is just by watching my parents doing certain activities.
Yeah, it's all about understanding messages. That's the most important thing. At the beginner level in a language, that is still really difficult, especially if your language is very far away from what you're learning at the moment. I'm learning Mandarin at the moment through pure comprehensible input. No translations, no English, no grammar study. I'm about to hit 75 hours, but it's still really difficult. The most important thing with this method is having complete faith in the process. Learning a language takes a lot of hours. I mean, two similar languages, English to Spanish, according to the Dreaming Spanish Roadmap, you're looking at 1,500 hours of listening. That's for two languages that are close together. It's going to take a long time, but you will get exactly where you want to go through comprehensible input.
How are you tracking the hours that you're for learning Mandarin?
It's really simple. I have a notes app on my phone, and every time I listen to a video, watch a video, I just add the minutes to my overall total. I then have a minutes today section, so I can track how long I've done in each day. And then I have a few other sections for some psychological tricks. Firstly, streak. Worked on Snapchat, worked on TikTok, use it for your language learning. Trust me, it's a great way to build some real consistency. I then have 60-minute streak, so how many days in a row I can get an hour. At this point, that's still really difficult in Mandarin, so that doesn't go up very much. And I have a biggest day section as well. So the biggest day I've ever done of Mandarin was 92 minutes at the moment. So if I have another day where the minutes are really high, I'm feeling good, I'm at like 88 minutes, having that number there sort of pushes me to do 5 extra minutes, 10 extra minutes. And with language learning, if you can find 5 extra minutes in a day, in a year, that's going to add up to a lot of extra time.
That's so true. Just 5 minutes a day does make a difference. Even if you're focusing on, that chunk method, if you're learning a certain phrase, just practice that for 5 minutes. Read it, speak it, write it in a sentence, and then just revisit that the next day. And I'm curious, why Mandarin?
I wanted more of a challenge after Spanish. I picked up Spanish pretty quickly, and I wanted to really test myself with this one. I wanted to really sort of push myself the furthest I could go with a language. And when you think of the differences between Mandarin and English, worlds apart. There's no easy beginnings with this one. In fact, it took me over 40 hours of listening to Mandarin before I even understood a single word. Huge faith in the process that you're going to get there eventually, but it is tough when your languages are so different.
And why Argentina?
I had visited Argentina about a year before as a tourist, and I really enjoyed it. And the first time I moved abroad, I wanted to go to a place that I somewhat knew, a place where I knew what I was getting myself in for, and I think it was a really great choice. Had the best 10 months of my life in Argentina, made lots of amazing friends for life, and I'm really excited to go to Chile in a few months' time.
Very cool. I've never been to Argentina, never been to Chile. I've only been to Peru in South America. I will say that the Argentinian Spanish is one of my favorite. I think it sounds a bit Italian and has a sing-songy type flow. Can I hear your Argentinian Spanish?
Sí, por supuesto. Si me quieres hablarte en español, vamos.
Whoa, you're really advanced.
Muchas gracias, muchas gracias. Yeah, it took a really long time to get to this level of fluency in Spanish, but it's proof I'm not good, particularly good at languages. I tried to learn so many languages so many times and kept failing. It's all about finding the right method, and I really think comprehensible input could be the right method for you.
Can we hear some Mandarin?
With 75 hours, no. No chance, sorry. I'm with Mandarin, I'm gonna try. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this or not. I'm going to try and not speak until I have 1,000 hours. Now, if I get restless, I might book an italki lesson at, 400, 500. I won't be able to form a sentence in Mandarin for at least a couple hundred hours. So best leave it for a little while.
And Mandarin is so different compared to even, Korean. I don't even think Korean is easy. as well. Maybe you'll learn Korean one day.
I did think about it. So I landed on Mandarin because I did A-level history at school. That's the exams we do when we're 18. And one of my exams was on communist China. So I spent a period of my time like learning a lot about China, Chinese culture. So it made sense to me, like in my head and in my heart, that that was the right language to choose next.
Well, I have a few last questions for you. What do you do on your time off? What's your hobby or pastime?
I read, I would say. To be honest with you, I'm a full-time English teacher. And my entire lives are centered around languages at the moment. I feel like it is an amazing sort of life to be living. Everything is done with so much purpose. Everything I do can be used to help me in a way. For example, if I'm feeling tired, I watch the TV, but I watch it in Spanish. And that way I know even when I'm relaxing, I'm doing something good for myself. The one thing I do go to a lot of football matches. I am a big fan of football. I went to a lot of football in Argentina, which was very, very fun. And I do play video games as well, but not as much as I would like to.
And your video games are spoken in English?
When I play video games, I am just trying to relax. And it's the one time I really let myself turn my brain off and just do something fun for a little bit.
Do you play Call of Duty?
I played the old Call of Duties. I'm quite a big Zombies fan, but the new ones aren't my thing, unfortunately.
My husband plays Call of Duty, and I'm looking at his Xbox thing right now. But yeah, I understand what you mean by really turning your brain off when you're playing video games. And when you say football, you mean real football, not American football.
Yes, I mean football, or as the Spanish say, fútbol. What you guys would call, I hate this word more than any in the British language, by the way, what you guys would call soccer, football.
Can you say soccer with an American accent?
Soccer.
I want to hear something else with an American accent.
Hey, you guys love soccer, right? No, that's the best I can do, I promise. Let's leave that one on a high, please.
This is my attempt at a British accent. I'm not sure which part of the UK this is.
So what you're trying to replicate is RP, received pronunciation. The majority of people in Britain have their own localized accents. I've never been to a place like it. You can literally travel one city to the next, an hour, 2 hours in the car, and the accent changes completely. Something truly remarkable about the United Kingdom. That's
really cool. I'd like to explore the countryside of UK.
I hear people say this, right? But as someone who lives here, you can do better. I'm gonna be honest. There are countries with truly unreal wildlife and nature. The British countryside, I'm not sure. Maybe Scotland. I've never been to Scotland. I've heard it's very pretty. Go to Patagonia in Argentina, and that's when you see true countryside, in my opinion. Super remote.
I'd love to go to Patagonia. The Cotswold that's a popular vacation destination in the UK, is that right?
I believe so. I feel like everyone who comes to the UK comes to London. And there are definitely other cities that offer a lot. In terms of wildlife, we don't have a lot of biodiversity. I read an article not long ago, preparing for one of my lessons about biodiversity. According to it, the UK is the least biodiverse country in the world. As nature goes, it's nice. If you're going to pay your money to come and see nature, however, I'd say there are probably better options out there.
That's an interesting fun fact about the lack of biodiversity.
I wouldn't call it a fun fact. It's quite upsetting, actually.
The other thing I noticed when you say the word media, you say meteor, you put an R at the end. Is that right?
Media?
Maybe it was because you put it in a sentence and you were connecting the words, so it sounded like R.
Yeah, it might be.
One last question is, if you were to give a piece of advice to all of our students here around the world, what would that be?
Think about the process. Don't think about the outcome. Think about doing 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour of English practice today. Don't think about being a fluent speaker. Becoming a fluent English speaker is the byproduct. It's what comes after lots and lots of hard work. Focus on what you can control right this moment.
That's really, really important advice because it also allows you to stay in the present moment. And this is something that I struggle with on a daily basis, is I'm always thinking about the future and things that I can't control. But what's in front of me right now, the here and the now, is what I can control. And when you're learning a language, if you're present, it allows you to enjoy the process more than putting so much pressure on yourself to, the end goal. So try to enjoy the process. And just to piggyback what Sam is suggesting, I have one big piece of advice for our students, which is don't focus on eliminating your natural accent, your native accent, because that's a whole different task. Just focus on having conversations with people who are native English speakers, but don't get rid of your accent, because you should stay true to who you are and don't make this such a difficult process. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And what I will sort of add to that is your accent in a second language, it will change over time. So once you get to C1, your accent will naturally develop as you just become a better speaker of the language. You'll become more natural, sound more native. Yes, you will always have an accent, but things get better. You only improve in languages if you work on it, and that's the best thing about them.
Another good point. You can only improve if you keep practicing. Brilliant. Well, Sam, I am so grateful for you coming on, and I would love to continue collaborating with you, and I'm really grateful for your time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. You're, of course, welcome onto English Sponge at any time. We'll prepare something fun for you. We'll do something interactive.
Ooh, I would love that. I hope you guys enjoyed our interview. Give us a like. I forgot to ask you that in the beginning, but please like this video. Please share this video with any of your friends who are also learning English, and we will see you next time. Bye.